morning. Thank you, Lisa. I think I should begin by tweeting that I'm on stage and about to present at Big Ideas Fest, so I'll do that quickly. As Lisa said, I'm the Open and Collaborative Resources Fellow at the Shuttleworth Foundation. I work in the K-12 space, which we call R12, and my focus is on open educational resources. So what I realized yesterday was not a lot of people are actually very familiar with open educational resources. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit, just so that we're all on the same page. And I don't have any slides, I'm sorry. I think there are more people on this side of the room, so I'm going to stand on this side of the lectern. I think we've got this center of biomass over here. So everybody, I think, knows about open source software, right? Open source software is not just software that is free for you to download and use. It's software that you can get access to the source code. The source code is open to you. You can take it, you can change it, adapt it, modify it, enhance it, right? You have that freedom because the source code for open source software is available under an open license. The licenses that restrict what people can do with it, those licenses are open because they provide freedoms. They provide the opportunity to take these things and adapt them and hopefully improve them, right? You get to scratch your own itch. You can take software that other people have built and you can change it and adapt it to meet your specific needs, all right? Most open source software is built by a community collaborating online. All right, and open source software, I would argue, some open source software is the very best software there is available in the world. Okay, so these communities actually produce a lot of really great software. Now, this principle of open source software and collaborating is something that you can apply to other areas where there are resources required. You can take this concept and you can apply it to educational resources. And the stereotypical educational resource is a textbook, right? There are many others, but the first thing that comes to mind is probably a textbook. And the licenses that govern what you can do with textbooks are copyright licenses, right? And the average copyright license starts off with the phrase or the sentence, all rights reserved, and then has a litany of things that you're not allowed to do. It's an incredibly negative statement. You probably don't ever read them. I certainly don't. But as the copyright holder, you don't have to do that. You don't have to say that people can't do things with the work that you've created. You're free to impose whatever restrictions or grant whatever freedoms you choose. So you could do exactly what the open source software movement does. You could say, take my stuff, adapt it, change it, enhance it, improve it, contextualize it, scratch your own itch. And licenses like that do exist. There's a range of them. The most popular ones, I think, at the moment are the Creative Commons licenses. If you don't know about open licensing, you should go to Creative Commons and take a look. Just Google for Creative Commons. Learn about open licensing. But if I take a textbook and take a traditional textbook, let's have a naive, childish example. We'll tear the copyright page out. And if I actually had a textbook, I would do that for you, but I don't have one with me. We'll ignore the copyright for the moment. That doesn't give you, so now it's a copyright-free resource. It's still impractical for you to scratch your own itch, right? Actually taking a physical book and making changes to it is very difficult. You need to, Xerox a few pages, get some, what we would call Tipp-Ex, or you need to get scissors and cut stuff out and cut and paste and all sorts of rubbish like that. You want a digital version, right? You want a digital version of that book. You want the source code for the textbook that you can actually get in, get your hands dirty, edit it, right? So we can release books under open licenses that say you're allowed to do these things, but if we don't make them available in a format based on an open standard, those are token freedoms. No one can actually embrace those freedoms, and we know that if you don't make use of the freedoms you're granted, you lose them very quickly. All right? So we believe that all these educational resources should be released in formats that are based on open standards so that anybody can build software which allows you to edit and adapt them, enhance them, reuse them in innovative and different ways, right? So you're not tied into some proprietary software package. Anybody can build a tool. It could be Mac-based, Windows-based, Linux-based, not a problem. If it's in a format based on an open standard, that's possible. Not only that, we know that community is really powerful. So we actually embrace open community processes as well. If we really want to produce high-quality resources of any type, to actually adapt them, contextualize them effectively, embrace innovation, we're much more effective when we work in the community. So we think that open community processes are very important. So this is kind of my open everything, open source software, open copyright licenses, open standards, and open community processes. And if you wrap all that together in the context of education, you've got open educational resources. All of that feeds into open educational resources. And there's a declaration, a statement of principle called the Cape Town Open Education Declaration. I encourage you to read it if you haven't. CapeTownDeclaration.org is the website. It's a statement of principle that articulates much more effectively than I can why embracing open educational resources is beneficial for education globally. I encourage you to go and read that. So as Lisa said, well, she didn't say lowly, but I'm a lowly physicist from Cape Town. I have no background in education. I don't know anything about instructional design or anything like that. So how is it that I come to be on stage here telling you about open educational resources and revamping education? So I'll just start with the brief kind of story behind it all. Back when I was doing my master's degree at the University of Cape Town, I was roped into going to a science festival and demonstrating as part of the University of Cape Town stall there. And I was demonstrating some basic physics principles. And they would bus in learners from under-resourced rural schools. And these kids clubbed together and went and bought a notebook. And they came to me the one day with this notebook that they'd purchased and a pen. And they said, we don't have textbooks. Our teacher hasn't shown us any of this stuff. I was demonstrating wave properties. But it's in our final exam. Would you write everything down that you told us? Like, yeah, OK, cool. I'm going to have a crack at that. But you can't do that very effectively in an hour or two. And you don't know if they know maths and, et cetera. So we started a project to actually liberate that information. I'm not happy with the fact that things like Newton's laws, which we've known for a very long time, you still can't get a copy of that's not free of some sort of copyright restriction, especially not in South Africa, not easily. So we naively said, all right, we'll get a bunch of grad students together, we'll collaborate online, we'll write down all of that information that we want to liberate, and we'll release it under an open license, and we'll solve this problem once and for all. So we did that. It took 5 years. It's kind of a cute little story, but we've got grade 10, 11, 12 maths and physical science textbooks which cover the South African curriculum that were written by volunteers. They're under an open license, and everybody collaborated online. So we use technology, community, and open licenses very effectively to do that, and those are open educational resources. But it didn't end there. So earlier on this year in South Africa, there was this massive public sector strike. So all of our teachers went on strike for more than 3 weeks. So kids weren't getting any, the learners weren't getting any instruction in class. And the National Department of Education actually contacted us and said, we want to make these books freely available. We'll do it via our official portal, but we'd like you to edit them. And you can do that in a week, please. And it's 1,800 pages of content. You're like, well, that's not possible, so we'll do it. So we did. We put it up on an open platform where anybody could annotate it, and we called for a community of people to come and help us try to edit these books in a week, just looking for factual errors. And we got a community of 100 people across the globe that on average had a master's degree. And that's only because the professors that contributed are kind of similar quantity to the number of undergraduate students that helped out. But most people had a PhD that actually helped out in the project. It was really quite exciting. And we did it in a week, 7 days. We edited 1,800 pages of content, and it was made freely available by the Department of Education on their official portal. Since then, those books have been personally endorsed by the heads of maths, physics, and chemistry at the national government as the best books in their area. So now we've got this open educational resource, which is the best books in this area that was developed under an open license by a community collaborating online, using technology effectively, people all over the world who just want to help education. So that's kind of cool. But, we released under an open license. People need to be able to take advantage of these freedoms that we've given them. They need to be able to make their own versions, to scratch their own itch, to contextualize it to their own specific needs. So we put them all up on a website. Website's called Connections. It's built by a team out of Rice University, Houston, Texas. It's an open platform. Anybody can put content on Connections, right? On Connections, you can go and get the resources in PDF format, EPUB format, HTML format, XML. But you can also duplicate them and make your own versions. So you can create derivative works on the website, make your own versions, and all our books are up there. So that's really cool too. But only 12% of South Africans have access to the internet. So we've got this other problem. So actually in South Africa, the real accessibility requirement, that's internet via a PC with a traditional kind of ADSL line, something like that. So the real accessibility requirement in South Africa is still hard copy on a desk. So that's very specific to our context. I acknowledge that. So we thought, well, our principles of openness, collaboration, community, use of technology, how can that solve this problem? So we're building something called OpenPress, a collaborative printing tool. It's an open catalog that anybody can put things that they want to print into, and people can come to this place and express interest in printing a certain number of resources of a certain type. So our books would be up there, for example, and teachers could come and say, I want 100 copies of this. And we would source other educators that were also interested, aggregate those orders, negotiate the best printing price with the printer, and then take them a concrete offer, because those expressions of interest aren't binding. But if we achieve only modest volumes, 4,000 units, we print our textbooks, and if my luggage weren't playing hide and seek with United, I'd have one here and I'd show you the physical quality. But we print those books in the same physical quality that the publishers do for a fifth of what the publishers charge, because there are no editors, authors, or publishers' royalties. So that's really cool. So now we've got this cost saving, and we can put books on desks, and we've got them on this Open Educational Resources platform, which is a global platform. But 85% of South Africans, or 100, depending on whose statistics you believe, have access to a web-enabled mobile phone. So we built a mobile front end for the Connections website to actually cross that digital divide, to make all of these resources that are on this Connections platform available to all learners in South Africa. And we've done that. So now anybody who is prepared to share their resources on this platform can actually make sure that they're available to all of the students in South Africa. There's no problem. And it's an open platform, so anybody can share on this platform. Our stuff's available, but other people benefit from it too, and that's all open source as well. So now we've got the books available in print, online, and via mobile, and they're acknowledged as the best books in their area. And when we go to teachers and we tell them about open educational resources and they can share, they don't take that much convincing. You know, as far as I'm concerned, and it seems many of them are concerned, sharing is fundamental to teaching, right? I don't think you have to convince most teachers about that. So they'll give us resources that they want to share, and we help them share resources. So they've given us PowerPoint presentations, notes, question papers that they've developed, and one of the things that really stresses them out is actually sharing of questions and answers. So we built an open source assessment bank where they can share questions and answers under an open copyright license, rapidly generate tests, capture learners' results, and get reports based on that very quickly in a few minutes. And now, because our books are available online, we link our textbooks to this open assessment bank. So every single question, every single exercise in our book is linked to an assessment bank that's continuously growing and being fed by a community of educators that grows every day, which I'm really happy about. So now our books have, not only are they the best in their area, they're now linked to this ever-growing assessment bank. Plus, on the Connections platform, we embed rich media content that's been donated by educators, things like PowerPoint presentations, donated by South African teachers. So we're starting to build this much better version of the books online. And Connections is a platform that acknowledges that you'll want to view something in print, or you might want to view something in hard copy. So it allows you to specify print alternatives for things. So we can actually produce the books from the same platform that has this rich media version available online. Now, the OER movement is growing globally, right? So there are projects, and you'll hear Salman Khan talk this afternoon, like the Khan Academy, which have thousands of videos that are freely available under an open license. They're open educational resources. Projects like the PhET simulations, scientific simulations, are very, very accurate, built in Boulder, Colorado. So our Connections versions of these books that we've put up now have all of this rich media content that's under an open license that another community has created that we can use embedded in it. Because South African teachers say, oh, I go to Google and I search for physics grade 10 and there's just too much stuff and I don't know what to do with it. So we give them a textbook, which is curriculum aligned, which is the best textbook in the country, with links at the appropriate places to this world of global, rich media, open educational resources that they can use. They know when to use it in their classroom. It makes it much easier for them, and it helps them take a step in that direction. So we put a printed tour guide to the world of open educational resources that are available online on every child's desk for a fifth of what the publishers are charging, and they don't have that kind of information available to the learners. So we're producing a much, much better product. So the next step for us now is to take those books. Although they're endorsed by government, they're available on the official government portal, we want to put them on the government-approved textbook list, because that means that schools can use their regular textbook budgets to buy them. Okay, and there's a lot of bureaucracy around using your textbook budget. So we're gonna act like a traditional publisher, and we're gonna go through all the hoops to get these books on the approved list. Okay? These books already stand head and shoulders above what the publishers are producing in South Africa, and they cost a fifth of what the publishers are producing. Right? We'll get them on the approved list. That'll be a fulcrum that we'll embed at the heart of the education system. The community of teachers that are already using these books, because they've been available for years now, will be our lever that we will use to shift the entire education system. Right? We'll open the way for more open educational resources to make it onto the government-approved list. We'll incentivize communities collaborating around the production of open educational resources because it can be available online, it can be available via mobile devices, it can be printed more cost-effectively, and it could make it onto the government-approved list at some point. We'll prove to learners, to educators, to parents, to the general public, that open educational resources are of the highest quality, that they're a force to be reckoned with, they're here to stay, they can actually drive meaningful change in the education system. So we will convince the public that open educational resources are a meaningful alternative to what the publishers are producing. There's the stigma, you get what you pay for. We're going to break that. We're going to drive an open education revolution in the South African education system by putting these books on the approved list and building a global community behind them that allows us to shift the entire system. Because that is the only way we're going to address the needs of learners in South Africa. We've got a massive number of cultures, diverse needs, and what we need to do is make sure that every single child in every single classroom achieves their full potential, discovers their dreams, and manages to take some steps in the direction of achieving those dreams. And the education system is failing that miserably. We need the ability to scratch the itch for every single student. And without the flexibility and without the community behind it, that's not possible. So I think that this is absolutely fundamentally essential to fixing education in South Africa, and I think it's a model for many other countries. Thank you.